There are billion-dollar empires incubated in magnificent skyscrapers with perfect business plans and massive capital. But there are also the world's greatest empires that were started with a mere capital of $50, borrowed from a father and led by a young man who had nothing but a crazy idea. That is exactly the story of Nike and the man behind that legendary swoosh logo, Phil Knight. The life of Phil Knight was not a straight path paved with roses of an innate business genius. It was a marathon filled with sweat, tears, spectacular deceptions to survive, overwhelming debts, and countless times teetering on the brink of bankruptcy. But above all, it is an epic about perseverance, about a burning love for sports, and the desire to create something with timeless significance. Born in 1938 in Portland, Oregon, USA, Phil Knight grew up in a middle-class family with a father who was the publisher of a local newspaper. His father was a principled, strict man who always expected his son to have a stable, prestigious job. However, the greatest love of the young Phil Knight at that time was not books or numbers, but sports, especially track and field. When entering the University of Oregon, Phil joined the school's track and field team. He was not an exceptional athlete. He ran quite fast, but never fast enough to become a champion. However, it was exactly on the dirt track of the University of Oregon that he met the person who had the greatest influence on his life, Coach Bill Bowerman. Bowerman was not just a coach, he was a philosopher, a man obsessed with how to make his students run faster, even if by just 1/100th of a second. He frequently stole athletes' shoes, tore them apart, stitched them back together, and added or removed materials to make them lighter and provide better traction. Bowerman's obsession with shoes silently planted a seed in Phil Knight's mind. Phil might not have been a great athlete, but he understood the souls of runners. He understood the burning sensation in the lungs, the exhaustion of the legs, and the ultimate desire to overcome one's own limits. After graduating from the University of Oregon and completing his military service, Phil Knight pursued a Master of Business Administration, or MBA, degree at Stanford University. Here, in a small business class, he wrote a landmark essay. In the early 1960s, the U.S. and global athletic shoe markets were completely dominated by the two German giants, Adidas and Puma. These shoes were of high quality, but very expensive. In his essay, Phil Knight posed a hypothesis. Could Japanese athletic shoes do to German shoes what Japanese cameras had done to German cameras? It was a crazy idea that kept repeating in his head. After graduating from Stanford, instead of finding a safe office job as his father expected, Phil asked his father for money to travel around the world with one crucial stop, Japan. In 1962, the 24-year-old young man set foot in the city of Kobe, Japan, to find the headquarters of Onitsuka Tiger, now Asics, a manufacturer of high-quality athletic shoes that were yet unknown in the U.S. During the meeting with the Japanese executives, when asked which company he represented, Phil bluffed spectacularly. He recalled the blue medals or blue ribbons he had won on the track and blurted out, "I represent Blue Ribbon Sports, based in Portland, Oregon." In reality, that company did not exist, but Phil's confidence and passion convinced Onitsuka. He ordered the first pairs of shoes and became the exclusive distributor in the western United States. Returning to the U.S., Phil had to work as an accountant to make a living, but every weekend he would fill the trunk of his green Plymouth Valiant with boxes of Tiger shoes, driving to track and field meets across the Pacific Northwest to sell shoes. He did not sell shoes like an ordinary marketer. He talked to coaches and runners in their own language. He instilled in them the belief that a lighter, better shoe could change the outcome of a race, and they bought them. But Phil knew he could not do this alone. He sent 2 pairs of shoes to his old teacher, Bill Bowerman, hoping he would buy them for the team. Bowerman's response far exceeded expectations. "Good shoes, but I don't want to buy them. I want to be your partner." The combination of Phil Knight, the business brain, the one taking care of distribution and finance, and Bill Bowerman, the soul of design, the one who truly understood an athlete's feet, created a perfect alliance. They shook hands, founding Blue Ribbon Sports, or BRS, with a 51-49 equity split, beginning the journey to overthrow the German giants. In the following years, BRS grew rapidly. They hired their first people, not economic experts, but shoe dogs, people who were somewhat eccentric, obsessed with sports to the point of fixation, and ready to work tirelessly regardless of day or night. Prominent among them was Jeff Johnson, the first full-time employee, a man with a superhuman memory of every customer's shoe size, and the one who created the company's first retail system. Phil Knight's business life throughout the 1960s and early 1970s was a continuous series of days living on a tightrope. BRS doubled its revenue every year, but profits were always zero because Phil always used every penny earned to reinvest in importing more shoes. The company was always capital-starved, constantly rejected by banks due to its high-risk, low-equity business model. The peak of the crisis came in 1971. Realizing the immense growth of BRS in the U.S., Onitsuka Tiger became greedy. They secretly sought other distributors in the U.S. and threatened to cut off BRS's supply or force Phil Knight to sell the company back to them. Facing the risk of losing everything after nearly a decade of building, Phil made a bold decision: break away and make his own shoes. They needed a new name and a new logo. Phil hired Carolyn Davidson, a graphic design student at Portland State University, for $35 to draw a logo signifying movement. After many hours of editing, Carolyn presented the swoosh symbol. Phil didn't really like it at first, but he clicked his tongue. "I don't love it much, but maybe I will get used to it." Regarding the name, Phil Knight initially wanted to name the company Dimension 6, a name that all employees mocked. Just the night before the day they had to submit the trademark registration, Jeff Johnson called Phil and said that he had just had a dream. In that dream, he saw the winged goddess of victory from Greek mythology. The name of that goddess was Nike. Short, easy to remember, powerful syllables. On June 18, 1971, the first shoe bearing the swoosh logo and the name Nike was officially produced. Nike's waffle shoe launched exactly during the Olympic trials in 1972 and immediately caused a massive resonance. From here, Nike was not just a shoe seller, but they had become creators, pioneers breaking all rules. However, the battle was never easy. In 1977, Nike had cold water poured on them when U.S. Customs, under the lobbying of American competitors, sent a retroactive tax bill worth $25 million. If they had to pay this amount, Nike would certainly be bankrupt. Phil Knight once again had to fight resiliently in Washington, lobbying politically, negotiating, and ultimately only having to pay $9 million. In 1980, to permanently solve the capital problem, Nike conducted an initial public offering, or IPO. Overnight, Phil Knight became a millionaire with a fortune of hundreds of millions of dollars. The boy who sold shoes from a car trunk years ago was now one of the most powerful people in the sports industry. Despite being a powerhouse in running shoes, Nike in the early 80s still struggled to penetrate the basketball market, where Converse and Adidas were dominating. In 1984, Nike made a decision that changed the history of both the company and the sports world when deciding to pour the entire sponsorship budget into signing a contract with a young rookie of the NBA, Michael Jordan. At the time, Jordan still really liked Adidas and was not very enthusiastic about Nike. Thanks to the persuasion of Jordan's parents, an unprecedented contract, including revenue sharing from a separate shoe line, Air Jordan was born.
The NBA used to fine Jordan $5,000 every time he wore the red and black shoes on the court for violating the dress code. Nike happily paid that fine, turning the shoes into a symbol of rebellion and style. The initial projected revenue for Air Jordan was $3 million in 3 years, but in just the first year, this shoe brought in $126 million. Air Jordan not only saved Nike from a brief period of recession, but also elevated this brand to become a religion of pop culture. In the following decades, under the leadership of Phil Knight, Nike continued to sign contracts with legends like Tiger Woods, Serena Williams, LeBron James, Cristiano Ronaldo. The slogan, "Just Do It," launched in 1988, became one of the most influential catchphrases in the history of the advertising industry, representing the spirit of overcoming yourself. In 2016, after more than 5 decades of steering the ship from a vague idea into a multi-hundred-billion-dollar corporation, Phil Knight officially stepped down as chairman of Nike, leaving behind an indelible, great legacy. In 2016, Phil Knight published his autobiography, Shoe Dog, one of the best business books of all time. Through his life full of ups and downs, we not only see the history of a shoe, but also gain profound lessons about life, career, and passion. Number 1. Success is never the effort of an individual. Phil Knight always admitted that he could not build Nike alone. He had Bill Bowerman, a design genius. He had Jeff Johnson, a man devoted to customers. He had Bob Woodell, a former athlete confined to a wheelchair but someone with excellent management capabilities. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Finding people who share the same passion, people you can absolutely trust, is the key that shapes all success or failure. Number 2, consider failure a part of the process. Do not consider it the end. In the first 10 years, Phil Knight faced the risk of bankruptcy almost every day. Credit cards locked, partners betrayed, government sued. But to Phil, failure was just data to learn from. He believed, even if we fail, we must fail fast so we have enough time to apply what we learned to the next goal. The fear of failure is never allowed to be greater than the desire to win. Number 3. Life is constant movement. The swoosh symbol is inspired by the wings of the goddess of victory, but its deeper meaning is movement. You are either growing or you are dying, Knight once said. In business, as well as in life, we are never allowed to be complacent or stand still. Satisfaction with the present is exactly the poison that kills creativity. Closing the book on the life of Phil Knight, the most profoundly lingering image is not the billionaire with a massive fortune, but the image of the skinny 24-year-old young man standing in front of a train station in Japan, heart pounding, preparing to step into a meeting that would change his life forever. The life of the Nike boss is a vivid testament that where your starting point is does not matter. The important thing is whether you have enough courage to lace up your shoes, step onto the track of your life, and just do it or not.